Hey, UF fans, Corey Bender here with Gears Online, here with Keith Niebuhr, here to break down the recent Grill in the Ville event that happened in Gainesville last weekend. Keith, thanks for coming on. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm ready to roll. We got a lot to talk about. It was a busy weekend in Gainesville.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about it. I know you were there, boots on the ground. I think it's the second year they've actually hosted the event. Just what do you think the benefits are of hosting this event? What are your thoughts after kind of seeing it up close?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, these things have been happening for years. It really started, well, I want to say the Big Cat weekend at Auburn was the one that kind of really got the ball rolling on this type of thing, just as Friday Night Lights was kind of the big, first big gigantic elite camp at a college, or the one that really got everybody's attention. But anyway, so when you go back, a dozen years or so to Auburn, the plan was, hey, how can we as a program highlight and showcase ourselves as coaches and staffers in a different light? These kids come on visits, we're breaking down film, we're showing them the dorms, we're taking them on tours around campus and really getting into the nitty gritty of recruiting. So let's take the mask off and let's show them a different side of this. So other schools started picking it up, and one of them was Clemson. And that was about the time when Billy Napier was, I believe, working at Clemson. And so it's just something that's a lot of schools are doing them, almost all of them. They have Tuscaloosa, Georgia, everywhere. I mean, LSU had a pool party, Texas had a pool party. So everything's a little bit different, but the same at the same time. So what you have at these events are a lot of team building and bonding experiences. And to do that, you do games, you do dance offs, you do karaoke, pie eating contests, watermelon eating contests, all this stuff that just basically just lets everybody's guard down. Okay. Because, to be a complete player, they really want you to be a complete person. And the only way to be a complete person is to not focus solely on football. So it kind of, it's this big circle. And so for Florida, the goal was really, let's bring in a bunch of recruits. First and foremost, Corey, you want to shore up the commitments you have, right? So, gosh, I have 7 out of 10 Florida commits were there, maybe more. And they feel good about a lot of those guys. Several of them have already shut down their recruitments, and some other ones who visited just the other day said that the recruitments were now shut down. Four-star offensive lineman Fletcher Westfall, who just recently committed. He's from the Washington, D.C. area. His recruitment is over. His parents are moving probably to the Tampa Bay area. They're already home shopping. Amaris Williams, who was a kind of a commitment that sort of came out of the blue in a sense. He committed on his official visit late June. Corey, you know this, and defensive lineman slash edge. I guess he's actually going to be an edge slash jack linebacker at Florida. And he had been leading, everybody thought, to Penn State, but he visited and he commits to Florida. So you're thinking, okay, but if he's that impressionable, what does that mean? He came back for the Grill in the Ville event on Saturday and says, I'm done. I'm done taking visits. So
That's huge, yeah.
first and foremost, that's what you want to do. Then also, any uncommitted prospects. There weren't many from the 2024 class. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, obviously, but Wardell Mack was one of them, fourth-star cornerback from Louisiana. We had heard at different times, Corey, that he was maybe down a little bit on the board, but now we hear he surged back up. But he was one of the only 2024, which is the current class, one of the only uncommitted guys in that class. And I'm going to get you to talk about him in a second, but Florida, Texas, and LSU, maybe FSU involved. So with him there, you had all these guys that were already committed to Florida, and they're in his ear, and they're bonding with him, and they're having dance offs with him, and they're having scavenger hunts with him. And he's getting to see and get to know these kids too, and they're not shoving their recruitment down his throat. And Corey, coming out of that visit, I know that Billy Napier and company have some, I don't want to say confidence, but cautious optimism with Wardell Mack for star corner. They think they're very much in it. They think they're going to be in it till the end, but I know you have some more intel on Wardell Mack.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think with his recruitment, like you said, I think it's kind of been hot and cold. I think you probably say the same thing about LSU as well, the way they pursued him. From what a few sources told me, yeah, Florida's kind of all in. I'm all in on him right now. I know you've heard the same thing. Texas is kind of the main competition, so we'll kind of it's going to be interesting. He wants to make a decision before the summer, so we'll only have about 3 to 4 weeks. So I think it's going to be very close. I don't think a final decision's been made from what I've heard. So we'll circle back at him and kind of dissect his recruitment. But from what you're saying too at the Grow of the Ville, I mean, I think a lot of these kids in June, like you said, the recruitment's thrown down their throats from visits and pros and cons. Well, what was the vibe like from the kids there? Do they kind of feel more relaxed and just, hey, God, not
Oh
recruiting for
yeah,
once?
yeah. They did. And let me get back to Wardo Mac for a second, if you don't mind, Corey. You know, I think you've got a very good pulse of that recruitment. But coming out of that visit, we talked to a couple of different sources. You have been sort of got two different answers. It was a little bit like, okay, what's going on? One of them
Yeah, right.
was, hey, keep an eye on LSU, and I think I might have misinterpreted that. I think I misinterpreted that as them saying, hey, they're the main factor right now, when it may have been more of, hey, just keep an eye on them down the road. And what we later learned was that LSU was sort of getting heavy on him again, trying to work its way back in and trying to be a main factor. So that was one of the things. Now, Texas, as you mentioned, right there, they've got some New Orleans connections on their staff. Mickey Joseph, the well-known assistant coach, he's got ties to New Orleans. But Jabbar Jalou from Florida, he coached at Edna Carr High School in New Orleans for many, many years. He's the running backs coach for Florida. I hope I said that. I'm talking in circles. And then obviously Corey Raymond, who was the secondary coach at Florida, is the secondary coach at Florida, and would be coaching more than that. Everybody that follows the SEC knows about his track record at LSU previously, before he got to Florida, and then also his ties in the state of Louisiana. But digressing back to the question you just asked, Corey.
Yeah, no, and I was going to ask you too.
Well, you were saying about the, did kids, were they a little bit looser?
Yeah, about something different.
Absolutely. You saw them riding around campus on golf carts with inflatable alligators, sweating from dancing and doing TikTok videos, and you had the barbecue and all these photo shoots with the coaches, and their arms are around them, and mom and dad are happy, and little brother's happy, and Uncle Fred and Aunt Sally, and and so again, that's the whole goal. Let's just step away from ball for a little bit, man. You know what I mean? Let's just step away from ball and let's get to know people on a personal level. And if they like us, I mean, don't get me wrong, this isn't just an altruistic thing. It's not just because they love these kids. It's they want to keep these kids in the class, and they want to get new kids in the class. So but if you feel like if people really get to know you and they like you, Corey, they're going to want to spend more time with you. They're going to feel comfortable with you. Their families are going to feel comfortable sending Junior off to college to play for you. So yes, real laid back atmosphere. And also a lot of young talent there too that they were able to get in on early. But I interrupted you again. So
no, you're fine. That's great. And I was gonna say too, I thought over years Friday Night Lights was kind of getting stale a little bit.
Yeah.
I felt, and the problem is with June, that's the thing. A lot of these kids are now traveling in June. I remember like years ago when Jerry, Judy, and guys were there. Kids were still taking their OVs in, the fall and December and even January. So kids would actually. So a lot of kids just don't want to. I mean, with more of the coaches, I would say probably don't want their kids competing that close to the season too, risk of injury. But I think it was a good move by Florida just to switch that up. And hey, we know the season's coming up. Just kick back, put your sandals on. Let's just talk. But and last thing I was going to ask you too, Keith, regarding the event. I think obviously we touched on Wardle and Mac, one of the key guys to kind of watch after that. But any other guys you're kind of keeping close tabs on that you thought Florida may have some ground with that they're worth monitoring closely going forward?
Yeah, I got to think about that. I do want to get back to something that you just mentioned as well. With the 2025 class, which it's tough for us. You and I, we know we can get juniors on the phone, so we love writing about it. We're both guilty about that. We also know the clicks aren't as
Absolutely.
fans aren't. They haven't turned their attention to the next class yet. It's all about what about this class right now. But when you get 21 commitments in the number 3 class like Florida does right now, Corey, the hay's almost all in the barn. I mean, you got to hold on to the guys you got, but you're only going to take 4 or 5 more guys. But the fans may only be hyper focused on 2024. Coaching staff's focused on 2024, 2025, 2026. And then, oh, by the way, they've got a coach. They now have practice that started on Monday. But in the 2025 class, the guy you and I are really following closely, Waltez, I always pronounce his name. It's Waltez, not Waltrez, right? Waltez Clark.
Yeah, I think Waltez. Yeah, Waltez. Yep, you're right.
Running back from Tampa plant. We both interviewed him multiple times now, and we hear he is very, very high on that Florida running back board, maybe even number 1 for 2025. And he's high on Florida. He's high on their board, and he's also high on the Gators staff. He likes Jabbar Jalou, the running backs coach. He likes Billy Napier. He really felt comfortable there the other day. Corey, even after the event ended, he spent another couple hours in there hanging out with the coaching staff. So those are the things that really leave a big impression on a kid. Regarding the 2024 class, Florida has one running back committed. They're going to try to add a second. They've kind of gone back and forth on that. They were, then they weren't after losing a commitment from Chauncey Bowens. Now they're back in the mode of, hey, let's go find a second running back. Probably be somebody committed to another school who they're going to work on, multiple people. But for 2025, which is a very strong running back class, and you and I have talked about this as people, the 2024 running back class nationally, it's okay. The 2025 class is supposed to be very, very high quality, and Florida is zeroed in early on Waltez Clark. Let me see some other interesting prospects. Oh gosh, you got the names for me? You always forget. I'll take one who visited. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say too. I mean, just guys to watch. I thought over. I mean, Javon Boggs would have been one from Cocoa. I know he didn't make the trip that kind of came up there. I mean, Solomon Thomas. I mean, I know Florida has room to make up there, but I feel like the more and more they get him on campus, I think it's a recruitment that's going to drag out a while. Kind of like Jordan Hall's recruitment did from Gainesville. I think his recruitment's going to be very highly publicized.
I just talked to Solomon Thomas. He's top 25 national recruit. And now here's the flip side. He had plans Saturday to go somewhere else. He was at Miami. So he went to Florida on Sunday. So he didn't get to experience the team building and all that stuff. But here's what he did get to experience for. He was kind of one of only a few dudes on campus, which meant he got all their attention for a lot of that day. And he loved it. He knows Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton are hard on their offensive line, but he's very close with Rod Kearney, the freshman at Florida, who may end up being a starter. And he was also from the greater Jacksonville area. And Kearney said, look, these guys are hard-assed, but they're going to make you better. They know how to develop guys. They get guys in the NFL. They get guys that produce on Saturdays and then ready to produce on Sundays. And so he kind of likes that tough love approach. And as he gets to know Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton, Florida's offensive line coaches, better, I don't think it's hurting Florida that they're tough nuts to crack, that they're tough guys, that they don't go easy on dudes. I mean, that's what you expect out of offensive line coaches anyway, Corey, you know that. So I think they made some progress there. A young quarterback, there was really only one other young quarterback. It was 2026 kid, a rising sophomore out of Tampa, Logan Rogers. I think Florida liked him a lot, Tampa Bay Tech. Little slight of frame. He's 6'2". He's going to grow. He's going to develop, but they like that early upside, the potential for him. And he had a positive visit the other day too. I'm trying to think of some of the other 2025s that were there, but you always,
I think one other one we'll throw in there too, just from the just continued progress, would be Hilton Stubbs. I know it's funny. Back in January when I first talked to him, Florida wasn't even in his top 5. And they kind of jumped in the game a little bit late. They offered, and man, they've been the most consistent, I would say, since February. Most visits, most involved. I know when we talked about Future 50, he said it's the best relationship he has. No leaders, but I think we always say attractive visits. What relationships are good? I feel like Florida, they're going to have to be a little bit patient with him as far as taking visits, but I feel that they keep doing what they're going to be doing. I mean, it's huge, and they come from a school with a lot of kids too, as far as Jamie French, the Alabama receiver commit. So if they can somehow get Stubbs on board, and I think they're doing a good job of kind of just keep pushing the right buttons and just kind of wait for your time, but. I think that's one just over the long haul to keep tracking. Just another one.
Well, and he's visited Florida a ton. I think this is like his 3rd or 4th visit just since April to Florida now. He's got all the big offers now. He's a safety, obviously. And by the way, he looks even more physically developed than he did when I met him in April. So just in those few months, he already looks
very tall kid. Yeah, he definitely was the height as advertised. 6'2".
Yeah, and Florida, Jacksonville historically has been an area very good to the Gators. He's developing a very good relationship with, of all people, Austin Armstrong, the new defensive coordinator, the young and energetic defensive coordinator. By the way, getting back to the Grill and the Ville event as a whole, that was a good event for the players, the prospects, to get to know Austin Armstrong. They know Billy Napier, the guys that are committed. They know, Ryan O'Hara and Corey Raymond and Darnell Stapleton and Jay Bateman. They know all these guys. But Austin Armstrong's still the new kid on the block, right? When he got there in the spring, he didn't know many of the faces on the team, let alone recruits. And now he knows everybody, and they know him. High energy guy, young guy, just turned 30. So all in all, a productive event for Florida. You didn't see the commitments. And I think if Corey fans learned one thing, remember all that impatience after that first weekend in June? Oh my God, no commitments. It's the end of the world. the payoff isn't always right then and there. It's down the road. It's the building blocks. You're laying the foundation for commitments down the road. But again, first and foremost, you got to make sure you keep the commitments you have, provided you want them. If you don't want them, you figure out a way to get rid of them. The guys that they have, the 21 commitments, how do we keep, as a staff, keep them on board? Well, we bring them down. We have these bonding things. And we should point out, most of the kids didn't just come in for Saturday. A lot of them came in Friday. Some of them stayed through Sunday.
Yeah.
And so they got the full experience. And, before we go, Corey, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, Florida's 5-star quarterback commit, DJ Lackway, was there. He came in Friday. He was going to stay till Sunday, but he extended his trip. And we'll have more on this on another podcast. But he extended his trip into Monday so he could spend time with 5-star Ohio State receiver commit Jeremiah Smith, who came in Sunday, Monday. So DJ Lagway is the epitome of what you want in a leader of a class. He's talented, he's likable, and he is connecting with other recruits on a personal level, just as you want your staff to do. Some people have said, in fact, Jeremiah Smith, the 5-star receiver, has said that he recruits me better than most coaches do. So, very, very big weekend for Florida to lay the foundation for what's to come. The next step is try to finish off this 2024 class and then host guys all fall and get a jump on the 2025s. But I think it was a success. I mean, it's easy to say that. Florida's got the number 3 class in the country. People aren't jumping ship. One other thing, if I could point this out, 2 different commits said, and Lackway being one of them, I said, well, what if Florida, you hate to bring up the negative stuff because, it's one of the jobs where it should be mostly positive, right? Corey, we're not having to deal with cancer patients here. I mean, this is a fun job, right? And so, I mean, it's not hard, laborious. It should be fun. But I asked PJ Lang, I said, okay, so what if Florida struggles on the field this year? What do you think that will do to the class? He said, look, we're all in agreement, regardless of what happens, win, lose, whatever. Even if they struggle, we're going to be that class that gets things going on that rocket ship to the moon. So if you're a Florida Gator fan, that's what you want to hear more than anything. You can really focus more on those 20. I hate to say this because we're right about these 25s, but focus on those 2024s, get that locked up, and then, shift your focus to the next class.
I think that honestly, I think we might look at this event 2 years from now. It might be the most important event they've had, because if you don't have that event, in my eyes, you have Friday Night Lights by itself instead. You don't have those bonding experiences, and I think those bonding experiences. If Florida does have some hiccups on the field, which many expect in the fall, hopefully not. Hopefully they come out and they prove a lot of people wrong. But it's stuff like that when you're dealing with young kids. Is it one of those caution, God, should I go somewhere else? But them coming together and saying, hey, no, we're going to stick together. I think if you're Billy Niebuhr's staff, I mean, nothing's guaranteed, but that's a huge sigh of relief, because I think to get across to these kids, hey, you have to be patient. Not everything's going to be fixed overnight. So I think that was well said.
And Corey, I know we got to go here, but one other thing you made a great point. I don't even know if you made it, but if you don't have them there that last weekend in July, but they haven't been there since June because there was a 4-week dead period, you might not see a lot of these kids for a few months. Out of sight, out of mind. I mean, you know what I mean? Other people chirping away at them in their ear. So now
especially schools closer to home too.
That's right. One more visit to make people fall in love with Florida. Anyway, Corey, that's all I got, my man.
Yeah, awesome, Keith. Well, fans, like I said, stay with the Gators Online right now. Stay tuned with us. We're running an outstanding promotion right now too. $1 for a whole month of coverage. Also 25% if you want to actually purchase an annual subscription too. So plenty of different options. I think, Keith, you wanted to add one thing too. Did you have?
No, I'm saying $1, man.
Oh yeah, $1, man. So definitely, definitely you can't be. It's a no-brainer offer this time of year. So, for Keith Niebuhr.
Well, I was gonna say we're gonna have a lot more of these. I interrupted you for like the 19th time.
We'll have another one this week. We'll have a few other. I mean, I think this is one thing where Keith and I are going to keep just kind of pushing into the site and something different. I think a lot of fans like different type of coverage.
And I'm going to be on location for our next one. We aren't going to tell anybody where we're at yet, where we're going to be at. But
a different type of flavor to these videos.
I think it's a pretty important school. Let's put it that way. That's all
great.
I got. Thank you, Corey.
Awesome. Yeah, for Keith Niebuhr, I'm Corey Bender.